We are back for week 2 of the Frostburg Sports Awards. Logan Walsh, I'm delighted to be joined by Joel Assal from men's soccer. For goalkeeping, he kept 2 clean sheets and won our Male Athlete of the Week award. Joel, I just want to get your quick thoughts of how you thought that you played over the past week.
I thought I played well, but I also had a lot of help from my defenders. They made it so I had very few shots, so it was very easy. Put a lot of work in this preseason to get ready for these moments.
That was one thing I wanted to bring up, and something I talked about with a lot of coaches is that, last spring you guys didn't get really a full preseason to be able to work things out and deal with any issues or anything for the most part. So what was it like to have that full preseason? You bring a lot of guys that are new into the squad. A lot of depth is added, so you have a lot of new faces to get to work with. How beneficial was it to have the full time to work with them?
It was definitely very beneficial. We got in shape pretty quickly. We got to work with a lot of new people, and in the defensive end, we kind of just came together quick. Now everybody on the team is like a family, so everything's flowing really good right now.
So I want to take a couple years back on this, and you came in 2018 as a freshman, and you started in almost every single game. You kind of established yourself right away in the squad as the starting goalkeeper, and you've kind of grown over the last 4 years. So how impactful was it to be able to come in that young and be able to get that immediate experience?
The immediate experience definitely built my confidence up. So now no matter how our team is doing, if we're having an off year, if we're having a good year, I'm prepared and ready to help the team by all means necessary.
And so throughout those 4 years, as with most teams, is that you haven't had a consistent back four to work with, where that's really important as a goalkeeper. And one thing we talked with head coach Burns in the season preview about, 90% of your job at times is making sure that you don't have to face a ton of shots and organizing the defense in front of you. And you've had a lot of different back fours. How have you adapted to kind of each iteration, and what are the key things that you look for regardless of who's playing in front of you?
Well, now I think I've had Jose as my right back for the last few years now, so we kind of know how he plays. And then I've had Hayley Delor in front of me for, this will be the 2nd year, and now our communication between each other is really building. And then we brought in another center back, Matt, and he builds in right away. He's a tall kid. He's just ready to listen to whatever you say. And then we have Bryce for a 2nd year now, so now we kind of just building more and more with a stronger defense that has been together for a year, which is more than we've had.
And so the first game last week on Wednesday, you go up to Seton Hill, a pretty talented team up there, and you guys both teams traded shots back and forth. There were a lot of fouls in the game. It was sort of stop and go. Was that difficult at all to try and keep your focus throughout the game, or it kind of helped you out where it's not all this free-flowing soccer where you can kind of get set at times and be able to organize a lot?
It was definitely difficult at some times, but Coach got me with the mindset of winning or tying by all means necessary. So I was throwing my body at everything, and I just felt confident throughout the game. No matter how many shots they had, I was ready for them.
And then on Saturday, a 1-0 victory against West Liberty, and a bit of an awkward game last year where you guys were so depleted in terms of numbers that you actually had to go into the field and play as a forward. And I remember I was broadcasting the game, and ended up being a 5-0 loss, but I could just tell that when you were out in the field, you were just enjoying yourself the whole time. You got to kick the ball around. I'm sure you were just having fun with the coaches of getting to be able to play the field. What was that kind of like?
That was a good time. In soccer, you have to have fun sometimes. It was fun. Everybody got to play in that game, and we lost, but I felt like, it was the last year. It's a new year now, and we got the 1-0 win against them.
And so that kind of a revenge game for you guys, and West Liberty obviously losing their top striker from last year, Josh Yeaman, and putting Bernardo Vilches in up top for them. Again, very similar to the Seton Hill game where it's back and forth, and you guys ended up getting the goal from Malik with some good work from Randy down the right wing. But keeping that clean sheet once again, you made a couple of really big saves in there, coming out, spreading your body wide and denying one-on-one opportunities. So is that something that, again, you've kind of worked on, is just staying big and preventing those opportunities when, those fast, quick guys with the powerful shots come in on you?
Yeah, with our new goalie coach, Jordan, he's really worked on my staying big and getting set before the shot. He's really tried to get me to open up and have my positioning right for every shot, which has been successful this year.
So I want to go back on that actually, where the goalkeeping coaches you've had now, 3 in the last 3 years, with Logan last year and Jordan and another coach a couple years before that, where each coach, I'm assuming they've kind of brought something different to the table to help you work. Is that something that, in a way, you don't obviously want to have a carousel of coaches, but where they each bring something different, you can learn something new from each one. Does that sound about right?
I've definitely learned something new from all the coaches. It's been difficult trying to do the different things they want, because each of them have different styles of coaching. And obviously, keepers have different forms on different coaches. But I think with Jordan, at least, he's really working my positioning, which is important. If you're an inch to the right, you're not going to make the save if it's to the left. And he's really worked on my setting and also my distribution. So he's been a good coach so far.
Absolutely, it seems like it. And so going back and in the first game of the season at Concord, or against Concord, still haven't conceded a goal this year, which again, credit to the defense and the midfield in front of you as well, and then you making some big saves in key moments. What's been the difference between last year and this year? Obviously, besides the numbers on the roster and the injuries that happened, but this team seems very together and a big team mentality in them.
Well, we brought in last year's covenants for the team, and I feel like everybody has really come in this year and bought into them. People who weren't bought in are gone now, and everybody has just become a family. We have a warrior mentality this year, so everybody's a family. Everybody wants to win together, whether you're getting a ton of minutes, whether you're not. Everybody's there working hard every day in and out.
So I've seen a lot on social media, you guys posting that you have a lot of team get-togethers at different places. You do some fun activities. It's really great to see, just as a side note. And then so this upcoming week, you travel on the road. You go to Alderson Broaddus on Wednesday and then Wheeling on Sunday, which were the 2 teams that you beat in the spring. So what's the feeling around the team going into this week where, yes, they're road games, but a couple of teams, do you think, they're winnable games? What are your expectations for the upcoming week?
We're definitely feeling confident. I'd like for us to score goals like we did in the Concord game, but we also have to know that it's New Year and every team is good, so we got to be ready and not just think we're going to beat them. Be ready to play a good game and battle through the whole game.
Well, Joel, I just want to say congratulations once again on being named our Male Athlete of the Week. I want to thank you for taking time out of your day. Obviously, a busy class schedule now that we have all in-person classes now and having practices, games all kind of thrown at you. But thank you for taking the time to come and talk to us.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So we will continue our Frostburg Sports Awards. Stay tuned here and at frostburgsports.com. Thank you for watching. Back here with the Frostburg Sports Awards, and right now we have our Coach of the Week, which is cross country in Shane Brookshire, the men finishing in 3rd place at the Bethany Invitational over the weekend. Coach, I wanted to know what your thoughts were for both sides, the women finishing 10th as well over this past weekend.
So with the race, it was definitely a great race with our athletes. The women's side, this year we're just trying to finish in 5 races and have a women's program for the first time in several years, but it's actually a really good women's team, based off of the athletes that we had coming in and several of our returners. Isabel Pereira, who was our number 5 runner, she ran this course 2 years ago, and she pretty much ran 3 minutes faster this time around versus last time. And we had 4 women in the race finish ahead of where our top runner was 2 years ago on this same course. And so obviously good signs from the women's team. Liz Stanley being our top runner once again, and she's a freshman out of Dundalk High School. Chelsea Montal finishing not too far behind her either. And Hannah Meir, our top athlete from last year, she's still working through some injuries but getting back into it. And Ella Warnick was our number 4 runner, and she had a really strong race. She was our transfer from Garrett Community College, and really this was probably about a 5-minute PR for her in the 6K. And so I'm expecting some great things out of her this year as well, as she starts to get into the shape that she was once in for high school, and which talked with her, and her going through the 5K this past weekend was about as quick as she was running her 5Ks in high school. So definitely great signs all around from our women's program. like I said, having that 10th place finish. We also beat a couple teams from our conference with Glenville and Alderson Brodus. So hoping that we continue to move up. We were only 14 points behind Fairmont, so we're just looking to get the next team in the conference, and hopefully when we get to the championships, we'll have a strong finish on the women's side. And then with the men's team, the 3rd place finish in the 8K is not only great for them, like place standing wise, but just looking at how the team was, like with their gap 1 through 5, we only were about a minute 24 apart. We also sat out one of our top 5 runners from Shippensburg, and so we weren't at full strength. And the men's team, we had 5 guys ahead of where our number 2 was 2 years ago. So, and then Justice Lee Provost was ran 27:45, like for his first legitimate 8K. Last year he ran the conference meet, but he just got cleared like 2 days before. So this was his first real 8K race at the college level, and he did a fantastic job. Trent Taylor, another freshman, finishing right behind him by about 10 seconds. And then Zach Celadona and Seth Lassiter were only a few seconds apart from one another, and that was great. And Dan Foster capped us off for our 1 through 5, and he had a strong race. He also ran about 13 seconds faster on that course than he did his first time 2 years ago. So seeing the overall improvements was great for those returners, but also seeing that our 1 through 5 gap on the men's side is only about a minute 24, and I'd had to say this is probably one of the best teams that we've had, at least in recent years, on the men's cross country side.
Yeah, I wanted to bring and talk about that, where you talked in the preseason when we did our look ahead for this season, is that you're not going to have that one top runner that's going to finish in the top 5 of these races, but as a team, they're all going to finish very close to one another, where I looked at the results, and Cal had a guy that finished number 2 overall, and they finished in 7th or 8th place behind everyone else because they didn't have that depth behind them that we have. What improvements did you see from week 1 into week 2 of the season, where obviously, starting out that week again at Shippensburg, you're kind of just looking to what the team's going to look like, and now this week things sort of start getting into more motion?
The improvements that we saw, I think, was a result of just knocking a lot of the rust off with the Shippensburg meet. And Dan Foster, he didn't run too well at the 6K that we had at Shippensburg. He wasn't too thrilled with his race there, and he comes up and he still wasn't as excited about the 8K, but when I converted it to a 6K, it was almost a full minute faster than what his 6K was at Ship. And so I think he was just kind of knocking off some of the rust and getting used to running these longer distance again, because he's more of an 800 type runner. And for the others, it was just a matter of one, proper pacing, which is something that I've been trying to stress these athletes, both on the men's and women's side. I think we got out a little too fast at Shippensburg, just a lot of the first-time nerves, first-time race kind of thing. And so I provided them with some more accurate pacing cards for this one before their race to give them an idea of where I wanted them to be at, and really to prepare them more so for the Lock Haven race in 2 weeks. So they went in with a little bit better of a strategy to handle this 8K distance, and I think that made a big difference between the weeks, as well as that they got their nerves out of the way. Now they're more focused on running the right paces, and for the most part, a lot of our athletes hit the first 2 miles right on, and then kind of dropped off into a tempo pace after that, but they are still running pretty well. And I think running against a lot of the conference schools made a huge difference, because in some way this was more of a conference preview meet for us than anything else. The only top schools that weren't there were Charleston and Concord, and so having that opportunity to kind of see where we stand in the conference itself, I was a little worried about Wesleyan and Glenville, because Wesleyan has a great group of freshmen. Glenville has a couple guys that are up towards the front, but we were able to beat Wesleyan by 5 points, and that's not comfortable at all, but it's a good motivator for the remainder of the season. I think that the guys team is going to be somewhere between 4th and 7th this year, just because of how congested it's going to be at the conference meet.
Yeah, you kind of took that question right out of my mouth. It's going to be my next one about the MEC teams and getting to see them. But then going back on the women's side, and you mentioned you had those top three of Liz, Chelsea, and Hannah all kind of finishing similar to one another right at the top. And it's a pretty good sign when your top runner from last year is finishing third and still getting better and improving, as you said.
Yeah, like Hannah's come a long way since like her high school days, and she was a great runner for Mountain Ridge. And now like she actually has teammates to work with. Like last year it was just her and Izzy, and for the first half of the year before we added Hayley and Emily. And but now in practices, like she's got a couple other women up there to push with, and yeah, she's dealing with some shin issues right now. And like I know that as long as we keep monitoring that and taking our precautions with keeping her healthy and like ready to go, like she's still going to do fine like when she gets to the races. I mean, she's just an overall competitor. Like she doesn't like to lose, like she but she also enjoys seeing like her teammates have success too. And like so having her up there is great. I think that once we have her completely healthy, like I mean, she's going to be right back at the top too, and like help and push our newcomers. And so that's going to be an exciting time like for our women.
Kind of speaking about the injuries and everything, you get a week off before going out to Lock Haven in 2 weeks, and I guess that's kind of coming at a really good time for you guys to everyone can kind of reset, get healthy, get their mind straight, and like we talked again in the preseason, that's something that you sort of planned out for your scheduling to give them the week off and then come back in a couple weeks to get everything back set.
Yeah, we're definitely looking forward to the Lock Haven race in 2 weeks, and but we're also using this opportunity not only to get the ones healthy that need to get healthy, but to really hit them hard with some tough workouts this week. And so yesterday we were doing 12 400s on the women's side with about 40-second rest, and 16 fours for the guys, like with about 35-second rest. And I mean, they crushed the workout. It was fantastic for them, like running well ahead of the paces that they were supposed to. And then this upcoming Friday, like we have our toughest workout of the whole year, and it's a workout that I've been doing in the coaching realm since 2014. It's a workout that I ran in college that my coach talked up big, and so I think it's definitely a challenge for the athletes, but they get through it and they realize like just how tough they are mentally. And talking with some athletes in the past I've had, like they've said that this is like their hardest and most favorite workout that they've ever had. And so this is our week to really challenge the team, like the ones that are healthy, and try to take them to a whole new level mentally. And then after this, it's focus on championship style of racing, which would be Lock Haven, Slippery Rock, and then conference.
And so you look at the schedule and you essentially say, oh, we get a week off, but in terms of practice and everything, if there is no week off, there's no days off in cross country.
Exactly. Like we go full out like all the time, and like we'll back off when it comes like few 3 to 4 weeks before the conference meet and stuff. Like we'll focus a lot more on recovery and like in between workouts. And but this week is like the week that we're going to hammer them, and like they've already responded pretty well to the first workout, and this Friday is going to be the big one with the Michigan. And it's a very common workout that a lot of coaches love to do, and so I think that they're going to do just fine in it. And I said from a mental standpoint, it's going to make them really tough, and they're going to realize that they can handle a lot more than what they think they can right now.
Well, Coach, I want to thank you once again for coming in this morning to come and talk to us. Congratulations again on being named Coach of the Week, and it's always nice to see a smile on your face when you come and do these interviews with us.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, well, we will continue our Frostburg Sports Awards later on with volleyball with setter Hayley Delor. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching once again. Welcome back to our final athlete of the week for the Frostburg Sports Awards, and we have chosen Hayley Delor from volleyball. She is our setter as our female athlete of the week. She was named to the all-tournament team this past weekend at Cal PA. Hayley, I just want to get a couple thoughts on what you thought of your performance over the weekend.
I'd have to give it up to my team, because as a setter, the second ball is always like, you have to have your first ball and the third ball. So really, it's just my team.
So speaking about your team, you come in, you transferred from Marshall into Frostburg here. What's it been like to learn the new team, sort of a new scheme under Coach Kylie Hine, with getting to know all the players?
I think it's always like really fun to get to know like your different teammates and like your different role on the team, and it's always fun to experience like the different cultures. And I think we have a growing culture here at Frostburg, and I'm excited to see like where it takes us.
Yeah, and it's a very young team that we have, and something that I've kind of talked about over the past year, where both of our outside hitters that start, that you obviously have gotten to know in Beverly and Lakin, both now just sophomores and really, you know, kind of almost second-year freshmen in a way, where the spring season wasn't a huge deal, and then, you know, communicating with the defense behind you. So, you know, with those, looking at those two players and then the subs that come in for them, what's it been like to build specifically with those two?
A setter and hitter connection takes time. And I feel like just coming in, it's like a process of like every game, like the connection is building better. So I'm excited to see like how our connection grows throughout the season and like where we end up as a team, which I'm excited to see that too.
And so starting out the season, obviously the first weekend at IUP, and the matches that you guys lost, and then Cal still looking for the first win, but a lot of the sets have been close, and, you know, people that don't really read into a lot can't see like, oh, you know, just for example, this past weekend you won a set, and then the two sets you lost were both 28-26, and so it really could have gone either way. But, you know, how do you bounce back from that to lose those close sets, to still try and stay mentally strong even though you were right there?
I think it's like having team goals. Like every tournament we want to do better, and like our first tournament we didn't win a set, but we were really close like you said, and like everyone sees the loss, but we're seeing the growth on our side, and like we've won a few sets like this past tournament, and so this upcoming weekend we're hoping to get a few wins. So yeah,
it's always nice to see when the results can kind of follow up the performance in a way, where, you know, necessarily, especially in a sport like volleyball, it's such a back and forth that, you know, with the rallies it can go either way, and it's a lot of just going with one team to the other. Wanted to talk about your head coach Kylie Hine, where she was an All-American setter here at Frostburg. You know, certainly very accomplished in her career. As a setter yourself, what have you kind of taken from her, and what lessons that she's given you to bring into Frostburg?
well, I've always like another reason why I picked Frostburg is because I admired like her status, and like I was excited to see what she would have to say as a setter, because like there's always room for improvement, and she's really helped me with like my confidence and like running a 5-1, because I haven't done that in a while. So it's just been really like cool to see her like believe in me like the way she does. So.
And so, you know, we talked about, you know, your setting ability and 198 assists so far on the season across 8 matches, but also defensively in your past 6 matches, you've gotten at least 10 or more digs in each of those. So, you know, kind of going back on offense and defense, where, you know, the defensive side of things, usually you talk about the libero and the defensive specialist, but that's something that you've added to your game and that you can bring as well is the defensive aspects.
I think like setters always want to leave and they want to get the second ball because that's our job, but like it's always defense first, and sometimes Kylie has to remind me, hey, play defense, like you have to like play defense first because the ball's going to come towards you. So like as a setter, I think defense is important, and I also, in my last college, I played a DS role, so I think defense is more of like my specialty, because that's what I've been doing recently, so it's fun.
And so, you know, continuing on your teammates, we have Edwina Linez, who has been the setter for the past couple years, and she obviously knows this team, has been with the ins and outs with her, and you've sort of taken over the starting role, but she's certainly supportive of you and just hoping that the team can get better. What has the conversations been like between you two to help you learn the team more as to what she has seen for the past couple years?
Well, I'm kind of bouncing off her, like seeing how her relationships are and like using that to build my own relationships. And like she's a great teammate. She's one of our captains. Like she plays a really good, like a really big role on this team as a leader, and I really look up to her in that aspect. But yeah.
And so going into this weekend, like you mentioned, you're finally at home here at Bobcat Arena. Your first home match is at Frostburg State. What's sort of the mentality, the vibe of the team going into this weekend, where, again, the record doesn't necessarily show the performances, where now you're back home, we can have fans in the stands, and they get to see everyone back for the first time really in 2 years?
I'm really excited to have some fans and like get a good crowd going, because it would be awesome to get our first win home.
Absolutely. And so those two matches that you guys are playing on Saturday, certainly one that we'll be looking forward to as well. All right, well, Hayley, I want to thank you for taking the time out of your day, obviously with busy class schedules and practice schedules and games all being kind of thrown in. Really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to come and talk to us, and congratulations once again for Female Athlete of the Week.
Thank you for having me.
All right, well, we will be back next week for more Frostburg Sports Awards, and who knows, maybe we'll see Hayley again on this show. But thank you for watching, and go Bobcats.